We want to make every resource available for people. If I want to sell an NFT, I go to OpenSea, but like you can go to OKX and have an aggregator of multiple marketplaces. So you don't need to figure out which one is the best one to sell. You just care about selling your art the fastest or buying the right art the fastest.
Welcome to W3G, the official podcast for MySN XYZ and your go-to hub to learn the latest developments in growth and marketing in the wild and wonderful world of Web3. I'm Julie Octaviano, Head of Accounts and Operations at MySN XYZ.
And I'm Blake Minho Kim, co-founder of MySN XYZ. Each week, we'll talk to leaders in the Web3 space about the state of the industry, what they're building, some interesting growth hacks, and best practices around all things Web3 marketing.
W3G is a place to learn and get smarter in public, not only for those of us already in the space, but for the Web2 brands that are curious on how to transition over.
We're all building together in this crazy space, so tune in each week as we talk to the best and brightest and keep uncovering insights so we can all grow together in the world of Web3.
Today we'll be speaking with Shreyas Gavit, who leads Web3 product marketing at OKX, a leading global crypto exchange and Web3 ecosystem.
Shreyas is a Bitcoin-loving Web3 marketing pro with lots of interesting insights on what sets OKX apart from their competitors, their marketing frameworks for new users versus existing ones, and how they've adapted to the latest trends in the fast-moving world of Web3.
If you're interested in learning about the intersection of exchanges, wallets, and marketplaces, this is the listen for you. So without further ado, let's get into it. Here's episode number 16 with Shreyas Gavit.
All right. Thanks so much for joining us today, Shreyas. How are you doing?
I'm doing amazing. How about you guys?
Doing great. It's a sunny day out here in New York. How are things in Miami, Julie?
Things are sunny as usual, as expected. Yeah.
I got a little bit rain, so you can see it's sunny on that side and rainy over here. So that's typical Florida.
We're showing.
Yes, scattered rainstorms are what we're known for.
I love it. Well, let's just dive into things, right? So, Shreyas, we'd love to kind of dive into your journey, your background, right? Can you tell us about your marketing journey, but then more specifically, obviously, crypto, Web3, and how that all came together and how you're here today?
Absolutely. So, story really starts back in India, where I moved to the US to start my mechanical engineering degree, which has nothing to do with marketing again. I was interested in automotives as a kid. So my mom's like, well, let's go make you an automotive engineer. But then along the way, while I was in college, I found my way through like multiple partnerships as well as like sponsorships, marketing, running social media for my like different clubs that I was part of. And I'm like, there's something here. I don't know exactly what it is. I don't get marketing, but there's something here. I came to Detroit to start as an automotive engineer, product manager for automotive. And then I started my MBA, which was my entry into marketing. That's where I really learned like the ins and outs, the basics, the core foundations. Did a bunch of projects which are like more disconnected, as in like, pick a Fortune 500 company and do XYZ project for them. And I picked the ones where like I was interested. So I started with like a project for Netflix, a project for TikTok, and like all the things that I did. Eventually I saw them happening. So I'm like, shit, I think I'm good at this. So I should really be in here, right? Like what am I doing wasting my time in automotive? So
you could see the future.
Yeah. Exactly. I'm like, I think I'm good at this. Why would I waste my time at something I'm like not the greatest at? So that's how I found my way to marketing. And then crypto specifically, I was like, I heard about Bitcoin like a long time ago, 2014 actually, but didn't even do anything about it. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I don't get it. Fine. And then I started looking into it during my MBA. Again, one more like shout out to my MBA program, where a lot of people talked about it, which is where I met a lot of strong people that were believers and innovators. And then I took Anthony Pompliano's crypto course, which was a 4-week packed intensive course, which just like hammered things on me. And I'm like, oh shit, this is my jam, right? I thrive with people that are crazy and weird and want to talk about these things nonstop. So let me just go full time in it. So that's what brings me into crypto marketing.
That's super cool. Appreciate you, taking us through your journey. Just diving a little bit more into current day, would love to hear not only about your role at OKX, but obviously just OKX, what it is in general, and how you guys differentiate yourself from other centralized exchanges.
OKX in general is a global crypto leader. Like in terms of volume, we're right up there with Binance. So really high volume for advanced structured products, institutionals, as well as DeFi. Overall, the decentralized exchange that's been around for a long time. There's a lot of different products that you can trade. I would say OKX really specializes in like core competency is really the focus on transparency with the proof of reserves release. So after everything that happened last year, since then, this month is going to be the 7th time when OKX has released proof of reserves, which basically shows you, a full audit of what assets and liabilities are on the platform. And then in terms of just belief of the overall company is right, like that keep what you want on the centralized exchange, but also take self custody, right? Like the core belief of Satoshi, like not your keys, not your crypto. So that's where the Web3 division comes in place, where we have a full self custody wallet, which is not only a wallet, but like I call it a Swiss knife of Web3, where you can pretty much have a wallet, an NFT marketplace, a DEX, and DeFi aggregator all in one app. So if you're right now using Metamask, OpenSea, Aave, like all these different things, just replace all of those with one app. That's where OKX comes into play.
I love that. Nice. And so let's dive deeper into a little bit more about the Web3 division, right? Like, how do you guys define it? How do you think about it? Is that something you guys think is really unique? And then what's the strategy? What's the thinking, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's one thing that I just kind of touched on in the previous question is everybody, and even your like users that are listening, right? Everyone is on a different journey. Like I'm at a different spot where you're at a different spot. Somebody listening to this podcast first time is going to be in a different place. But ultimately, all roads lead to self-custody. That's where people should be if you're really doing Web3 right. And that's the whole concept. So if you open the app today, you can see on top, like the first thing that you would do is like you can toggle between exchange and wallet, which is pretty unique compared to like Coinbase. You'd have one app for exchange, and then you'll be like, oh, now I'm like ready for my wallet. But you don't need to do that with OKX. Like the wallet is always there. So it's just you need to toggle and create one. The second thing is you can move funds back and forth pretty easy because we have a transfer like built into it. So that's like just the entry point, right? So anybody coming in from different places always has access to the wallet. And then when you say about like how we think of Web3 is people can do different things. So just because I'm an artist and I'm not interested in DeFi doesn't mean DeFi is not available to me. We want to make every resource available for people without actually like trying, all over the place. And like there's so many sources of different things, but there's like very few curated sources unless you like know who to follow. Right. So I think that's the problem that we're solving, right? Like if I want to sell an NFT, I go to OpenSea, but like you can go to OKX and have an aggregator of multiple marketplaces. So you don't need to figure out which one is the best one to sell. You just care about selling your art the fastest or buying the right art the fastest.
I actually have a follow-up question to that. Basically, I'd love to know, how long have you been at OKX, I guess, as a product marketer? And the reason why I'm asking is, has that always been the ethos or the motivation, is making this entire, obviously, user-first experience, aggregating all of these different components into the same platform? Has that always been, the goal for OKX, or has that evolved? Were you there for that evolution? What motivated these changes in the UI or the UX? I would love to just kind of hear like the journey, and I'm not sure if you're a part of that, depending on how long you've been there.
Yeah, so roughly I've been here for around a year, and I used to work on something completely different before, but then it was always like, I almost think like my manager saw it when he hired me. He's like, okay, this is where the company is going. I think this guy is going to be great for where this evolution is happening. So I didn't like directly get to work on what I really wanted to, which is like, everything NFTs. But I think that vision was always there. Right. So the product, it's not like the product was just built overnight. There was a lot of things that happened before, like just to find that little product market fit, make sure the UX is right. But I would say since last year, September, which is when the merge happened, because that was like one of my first projects in the Web3 division was,
no pressure.
no pressure. It's like, yeah, just the merge, people don't know about our wallet, but they need to start using it because we're participating in the merge. Cool. And that's where I really saw how leadership was talking about all these things that is happening on the wallet, and not just like this is there for capturing audience from this like historic moment in the Ethereum ecosystem, but also like this is just one ecosystem that we want to support. But how do we bring together for a multi-chain future? And that's like where everybody wants to go. So I think that was, to answer the specific question directly, is like I think it was always there on the roadmap. I was not part of it before, but I could see it from just the conversations. And then when priorities like shifted, when I officially got assigned to it, we worked very hard with our product team to define the positioning, define the messaging, like a core product marketer's job.
That's great. And that actually kind of leads me into the next thing, right? Because now I'd love to kind of dive deeper into tactics. I think the interesting about OKX, it's more than just the exchange. I don't know, do you call it an ecosystem or a platform, or what's the term?
I still call it an ecosystem. And when you say like in terms of exchanges, like in my job, I'm not necessarily competing with other exchanges, but I'm more competing with Metamask. I'm competing with OpenSea. Like these are the people that I'm really trying to compete with.
Yeah. Side note, it's actually interesting. It speaks to the nature of the challenging regulatory environment we face today, especially as an American, right? Because I think I got excited by OKX because I had a friend tell me, and I was trying to get onto the exchange, and I think U.S. users are not allowed right now, or what is the
Correct.
exact policy?
The exchange is not available to users in the U.S.
Which is fine. It is what it is, right? And actually, I don't want to date this podcast too much, but some recent news just came out about the regulatory schema and Binance, so I'll leave it at that. So it makes sense. But it's actually interesting because I think even for myself, like I hadn't realized that the wallet was such a thing. And I think with Bitcoin and all the evolutions that are happening there, it's been really fun to witness what you guys have been playing around with. But before we get there, I would love to get tactical in terms of, as a product marketer working with OKX, what are the KPIs you're generally trying to hit? What's the framework you're leveraging? There's this question of where does paid advertising fit in versus community versus content versus partnerships? How are you leveraging all those things?
Yeah, I think there's a lot to uncover in that one question, right? So let's peel that onion back one layer at a time.
Exactly.
What are we really focused on? We're focused on growing the user base that is using the wallet specifically. So there's a huge number of people that are using the exchange globally, but then it's not like you open an exchange account and a wallet is automatically created for you. You have to come in there, create a wallet, you get your seed phrase, you back it up to the cloud, or you write it down yourself, or you create the MPC wallet. Like, we have different ways. Also, there's an option where you can import your MetaMask. So you don't if you don't want to like necessarily create, an OKX wallet, you can import your seed phrase from MetaMask, and all your data from MetaMask will like basically show up in OKX. So those are like a couple ways for creation. So all these basically tie into like the number of users that are using wallet specifically. And then once you like open your wallet, you'd want to like fund it and do stuff with it, right? So those are like the two real things that we care about, is how many users are creating one and how many users are actually using it. And then in terms of the frameworks that you're looking at, it's of course complicated because there's so many different ways we can go about it. Because like MetaMask, it's only one wallet which connects with everything else. OpenSea, it's like a marketplace. You need a wallet to access that marketplace. Or Aave, right? Like this is a DeFi protocol where you again need a wallet to access it. So these are like three different things, but we're offering all of that at once. So it's almost like a new category, but not at the same time. So there's different ways of going forward with that. So right now, the way we go for it is really like trying to do it as like this one solution, right? Like the most powerful like portal for Web3 is like how our website is basically calling it out, right? So it's
you're building
like,
the super app, right? Like the meta app.
Yeah. I mean, it's getting there. So and then like when you talk about like even taking that further on, like paid ads is something you mentioned. I don't think paid ads necessarily is the best thing for Web3 because there's a whole different like DNA of people and how that appeals to it. So the two ways that we're really focused on is just like organic growth, like through our channels, and then fostering our community. And when I say our community, again, because there's so many things, there's also so many regions, right? So it's not just like one community like here in the US or one community like English speaking, for example, right? There's different ways our community is like separated, and we just work across like so many other teams to bring everybody together to see like, okay, how do we call it as like one community, but also foster sub communities that thrive within it.
Oof.
One quick question is, what regions does the exchange operate in? Or I guess part two to that question is like, which are your most popular regions or most used regions in terms of the exchange? And then secondly, would love to hear how all of these communities within all of these regions congregate. Is it Discord? Is it Twitter? Like, what does community look like for OKX? Where does that live?
Yeah, I feel the first question, I'm not in a great stage to answer that because I don't really have a lot of visibility into the exchange business because I'm like literally specifically focused on Web3. But the second part is like community is still like, doesn't matter if it's exchange or wallet, community is community, right? Like it's based on interest. So there's like our trader community, there's like our, like there's different types of community, but like specifically that answer is we have a couple channels. One of them is Telegram, which is regional Telegram. So there will be like English speaking, there's Turkish, there's Russian, like, all these like specific like language telegrams. There's also our Discord, which has English speaking as well as regional channels in them. And then also Reddit. So like anytime a new product comes out, we talk about it on Reddit and engage with the community, like ask questions, whatever it is, engage over there too. So those are like the three key places where our community lives outside of Twitter. Well, of course, like our own channels, which is like Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, all the key ones.
Reddit's super interesting. Do you guys do Quora as well, or is it mostly Reddit?
Not to my knowledge. We haven't done Quora. At least we don't focus on it. We tried Damus. Have you heard of Damus before, or Noster?
No, neither.
Oh,
maybe Simon
cool.
would have knows about those, but I don't.
I'll just quickly touch on it. Blake, you might know Lens or Firecaster.
Of course.
Yeah. So think about the same concept, but on Bitcoin.
Oh, okay. That must be pretty new then, right?
It's very new and it's very niche. So I wouldn't post something like anything that we would do like with our partners, for example, or like a very like basic or a very advanced feature. I wouldn't post there. So it's like very specific things that we like gauge and see if it's the right fit for the audience over there. But we're still finding, if that channel is even working.
Yeah, I do want to dig into the kind of Bitcoin angle. And that was actually my onboarding into the OKX Web3 wallet. Bitcoin, I've always held, but it's always been kind of seen more just a store of value. But I think the narrative has very rapidly been obviously shifting over just the past couple of months with Ordinals, BRC20s, and now I think you guys are helping pioneer BRC30s. So we'd love to better understand, like, are you driving this initiative forward? Was there always a bit of a Bitcoin community within the OKX community? Like, how did that come about? Because I think what you guys are doing is it's been pretty impressive to watch how quickly you guys are moving and just like hopping on that.
So I think let's start with like how the wallet was built to begin with. It was built again, like first thing as I think it was a Bitcoin wallet only before, and then like also adding like more components. So like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, like these were like the core key chains that it was started with. And then we're playing like catch up basically to a lot of different wallets. But the one thing that I think was a very good strategic decision is that just having Bitcoin in there. If you use Coinbase and Metamask, like right now the problem is with everything that's happening in the market, you're not hearing anything from any of the EVM wallets because I'm guessing, I'm not a technical person, but I'm guessing that that's the problem. Why? Is just that tooling isn't built in and it takes time to build it. The way we were able to do it pretty fast at OKX is because Bitcoin already existed. Like you could have held Bitcoin in wallet last year in October. It was on the Segwit network, I think. So Taproot existed, but like it wasn't upgraded to Taproot. So last month is when like Taproot was upgraded. And then it's like, okay, now we're game on. Like because Taproot enables Ordinals. So what can we do here?
Yeah. And then you guys have been diving deep, and would love to hear a bit more about, like, if you want to help explain the whole Ordinals BRC20, like this explosion that's happened. I think that would be really helpful context for our listeners as well.
Okay, so Bitcoin as we know it has existed for years, like the first, decentralized blockchain. But then the problem with Bitcoin is why like Ethereum really thrived is there was like more that you can do than just Bitcoin the currency or Ether the currency. EVM enabled smart contracts, which enable NFTs, which enable DeFi, like all these applications built on top of the Ethereum blockchain. Bitcoin didn't have that privilege. But what Bitcoin did have is something called Satoshis, which is the smallest unit of Bitcoin. So in January of this year, a developer called Casey, he came up with this standard, which is called the ordinal theory. And ordinal theory lets you put data on top of the tiniest unit of Bitcoin. So this opens up a whole new area of what people can do, because before everybody was just looking at one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin, unit of exchange. But now it's like one unit is actually 10 million Satoshis, I think. And like now every single Satoshi can be inscribed, or a piece of data can be written on top of that. And you can do more with it by just like trading or selling this one piece of data, which is like ordinal theory. And then BRC20 tokens is taking that theory another level, which was just like talked about in March, where everything in ordinal theory was non-fungible. So it's like, NFTs basically. But then BRC tokens took that and added fungibility on the Satoshis. So now you got fungibility and non-fungibility built on top of Bitcoin. So that opens a whole new like layer of things that people can do. Everything that you could be doing on Ethereum and probably more. We don't know.
So it's as if we were operating on single dollar bills, and then someone came in and was like, wait, quarters. We can use quarters, which are like Satoshis, right? And then the quarters unlock the capability of the non-fungibility as well as the fungibility, kind of, sort of.
I think
Essentially.
that's pretty good. Like the way I like to explain it is Bitcoin is gold, and then ordinal theory is like making gold malleable, so you can make it into different shapes.
Like you can
And then
melt it
now-
down and make a cool
Exactly.
chain.
Yeah, you can like make shapes with it instead of just a gold bar. And then BRC20 is now you get a better like hammer to do just like more things. BRC20s or 30s, you can call it like both the same way. Like 30 is where it's something that OKX introduced, which introduces staking on top of BRC20. So like just more things that you can do with the ordinal theory.
And
Awesome.
so, and I'd like to give it a shot as well, just like my own hot take. The way I think about it is I think a lot of people in Web3, when they first enter, like it's either Ethereum, Solana, or like one of these coins, right? And as Shreyas said, I think all of those, by the way, are enabled by some version of smart contracts. The challenge was Bitcoin for the longest time did not have smart contracts because it was the OG. It was built as digital money, didn't have this smart layer on top to build these applications, NFTs, et cetera. And so everything we're just talking about with the ordinal theory is like, you're not necessarily creating smart contracts on Bitcoin, but you're creating a version of it so that you can essentially unlock the same functionality. But the interesting thing is because it's inscribed directly onto Bitcoin, onto the blockchain, like it's permanent. It lives there forever. Because I think the thing people don't realize is with Ethereum or Solana or many of these other like EVM smart contract chains, when we talk about like NFTs, a lot of that data actually doesn't sit on Ethereum. Like the visual assets sit separately, right? So it's not directly on Ethereum. Whereas with Bitcoin, it's like if you want to be a purist about it, it's like it sits there and it lives there forever once it's inscribed. Like you can't uninscribe it, I guess.
Yeah, I think that the key component that like we're both saying is this is a new way to have truly decentralized and immutable stuff stored on the oldest and like most reliable blockchain.
It's pretty wild.
That's why it's like that's why everybody's like, oh my god.
You just took something that was like kind of old and whatever. I never looked at Bitcoin as like a serious thing. And I'm like, I'm finding myself buying more all of a sudden because I'm just like, there's something here. Okay, so actually then following up on that, right? So now we've kind of like set the playing field. We'll love to get just slightly deeper down the rabbit hole and would love to kind of pick your brain on what you and the OKX team are doing with BRC. Are you guys behind that proposal? You're just helping out, or what's the relationship?
I lead the NFT side, so I worked on the Ordinals market specifically, but it's still my team. And, it's a very small team between us. So it's like some things I'm taking on, some things I'm, passing on so I can focus on other things. But I feel like where I'm really spending my time, regardless of like the product itself that I'm leading to market, is vibing with the community and really understanding like what projects are being built, what projects should we collaborate with, who are the key people that we should be talking with, and what are customers saying about us. I feel like just listening to the market over, if you can summarize that in one sentence, it is I'm listening to the market and being that voice inside my company to tell people that, hey, this is a new thing that happened, or this is a collection that's really being talked about, or this is something we should not do. Let's avoid this, right? People don't like this. So those are the things that I'm really like focusing on time on, rather than carving like a concrete bucket that I shouldn't like overstep on this one.
We'll love to actually then dive deeper into like what works, what doesn't. We'd love to hear any interesting like marketing experiments where you thought it would be really awesome, you tried it, and we're like, maybe that wasn't quite what we were going for. Like, did you learn any interesting lessons?
Yeah, like even just to add on to that, even like when we were discussing like the paid stuff and like all the channels, and you're like, have you heard of this channel? Or I don't think we do anything on Quora. Like that's so interesting for us to know as a marketing agency DAO. Would love to hear kind of some experiments you guys have ran and what's been successful or what surprisingly hasn't been.
I think I always come back to TikTok when answering this question because it's a really fun place where we have a lot of growth, but I wouldn't necessarily attribute it to our numbers.
Okay.
Because we actually product posts do the worst. And this is like my social media team hates me. Like every time, I'm like, hey, we're announcing like this new product. Like, could you no product posts, please. Like product posts do the worst. But if you look at the funnel, right? I would say Twitter has like middle of funnel users to lower of funnel users. So there's still like a good amount of conversion. Even if I don't click on it, I'll just see it. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like, you launched this feature. I'll go check it out on my app whenever I have time. But then TikTok is more like really high level funnel, right? Like people that don't even know into crypto, or like people that are interested in cake videos, but with an OKX logo. That have never used a wallet, never known crypto, right? But those people are still important from a long-term perspective, because not everything is short-term short-sightedness, right? Like if we're talking like real true marketing, it's not just selling your product to make profits right now, but how do you make people fall in love with your brand? How do you make people like really understand like what your personality is, like what you stand for, what you don't stand for? I think those things, like without saying it, how do you convey it to these top of the funnel users on TikTok is something that like I'm always interested in, like, and then I just come up with like random dumb ways. Like if I see a trend, I'm like, oh, let's just insert a product screenshot in it and make something with it. And like sometimes it does well. Like it's TikTok. You never know what's gonna do well. I remember once we had a recap video of our team in London, and that did amazing. But then there was like one product tutorial, and that didn't do great at all, right? So I mean, like
people don't like product. It sounds like
people don't like product.
What
on TikTok.
do they like?
Entertainment.
What are the posts that typically do well on TikTok? Like, are they just more like lighter? Like, are they featuring different things? Like, what is it that of that is performing well on that type of channel?
I'd say there's two things that perform well. One is that keeps people's attention longer. So for example, there was one video where a person was like designing the logo on a cake, and people are like, okay, how is it going to look? How's it going to look, right? And then there is that like short, like very fast, punchy content where things just like flash in front of your eyes, and you're like, wait, I think I missed that. I need to go see it again. And then you see it a couple times, and then the algorithm does its thing. So I think those are like the two types of content that perform very well. So as a product marketer, it's my job to like try to figure out where I can give a tiny hint of the product here or there within these type of content without actually saying, this is how you create a wallet. That does great on YouTube, but not on TikTok.
Yeah. Yeah. The biggest thing is, like you said, it's a long game. It's nurturing the brand for those users who, as we keep saying, are at different points of their journey. A lot of users on TikTok aren't even at the point where they're considering buying crypto, selling crypto, even signing up for a wallet. But I'm sure that with those constant little subliminal, passive nurturing messages on something as mindless as TikTok, eventually when they do get to that point in their journey, OKX will be top of mind because they have that fondness, almost subconscious fondness to the brand.
Let's talk about subconscious fondness. So, and I mean, people will be using these things, but without knowing. And I think I like that you mentioned that, right? And I'll give you an example of what we did 2 months ago. So OKX partnered with Rolling Loud, the concert for Thailand. And a couple big artists like Cardi B, Travis Scott were playing at this place. And what OKX did was create an NFT, which is they call an OKX exclusive pass. So you buy the general admission ticket, and then you mint this free NFT using an OKX wallet. And this NFT is, again, you can be here in America and mint this NFT, but it doesn't do you anything. But when you go to the concert in Thailand, then you get access to Fast Pass, you get access to Drink Lounge, you get access to parking, you get access to Meet the Stars, all these different benefits that, were tied in at different stages. But that was very, very well received because, again, you showed people value by using a technology that they're not aware of. Nobody cares. Blake and I were just chatting a little bit. Apple is releasing their VR headset today, right? Meta's been talking about VR for years, and nobody's cared. But just watch, right? I'm sure people will start caring right now because they're doing it in a way which doesn't feel intrusive to change their behavior, but builds something on top of existing behavior.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Yeah. One last tactical channel question. I'm just curious because I was just discussing this internally with my team members at Myosin. Because you mentioned you guys use Facebook. Do you use Instagram? And if so, do you recycle? Do you do the age-old recycling TikToks into Instagram Reels? And do you know how that performs?
We do the recycling. I don't know how it performs, but I can tell you this. Instagram is, at least from the Reels and picture standpoint, we almost post no product announcement unless it's actually something that is nice and pretty. So if, for example, the Rolling Loud one that went on on Instagram, but something like Ordinals Market, we could probably do it, but it won't get us any results as much as, trying to double down on that one and actually do it, post 2 or 3 times in the week on Twitter versus even once on Instagram.
And do you think that's because
Instagram's very full of GMs and pretty pictures. That's
okay.
Escapism.
Yeah. It's the aesthetic, right? And this is just my hypothesis on why that is, right? It's probably because TikTok, number one, is literally the algorithm is their secret sauce. And they're all the best performing content you're talking about, it makes sense, right? That longer, the creating the logo on a cake, that's mystery, right? So people are why? And then they stay longer. And then the ones that it's a quick hit, it's just you're forcing people to watch it again, right? And that drives up, the amount of time someone watches it, and that feeds the algo. But Instagram, it's all about curation and pretty aesthetics. And so it just makes sense. That's interesting. Yeah. So when you're, thinking about net new users versus existing users, we are kind of in probably the depths of the bear market right now. We're seeing less users, less retail, less interest in general. So would love to kind of hear a bit more about how that's been, and also what's the approach in terms of kind of competing and winning market share. And I'm assuming maybe the whole Bitcoin play is a part of that, right?
I think you answer your own questions. So,
I do that sometimes.
So in general, you mentioned liquidity on exchanges drying up, right? But where's that liquidity going? To wallets.
To DeFi wallets. There we go.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's actually a good thing that, I mean, people are taking money out from wallets, from exchanges, and then moving into wallets. And now they're looking for a wallet solution that gives them more than just what they had on the exchange. But it's like, oh, well, now I need like two things. I need good security, but then I also need like all these chains because I don't want like 5 wallets. I don't want like a wallet separate only for like Cosmos, for example, because an exchange let me do that, but MetaMask is not letting me do that. I don't know if MetaMask does Cosmos, but I'm just saying that. So I need a solution for one wallet that lets me at least keep all my funds safely and actually lets me do stuff with it when I'm ready. So I think that's where that proposition comes in for, regardless of what is happening in the market, there is still a space where people need to do something with their money rather than just having it sitting in their hard wallets. I mean, there are some people that, just transfer it over to a Ledger or Trezor and be like, okay, cool, never touching it again. So there's all these different type of people that, it's just a question of like, who are the people that you want right now? And then what do you want them to do? So again, it's that like cross-selling and upselling piece where you're cross-selling things from like different verticals that we have, as well as upselling things that in the same vertical that they're not maybe using.
Got it. That's helpful. Thank you.
Would love to hear what we can expect to see from OKX and your team in the coming months. Anything, new, innovative, interesting, surprising that we should be keeping a lookout for?
Yeah, I feel one thing that like we've already started to lay the grounds on, but like nobody has actually seen it, is the BRC30 proposals. Again, to give audience a quick BRC30, what it is it's enhancing the BRC20 proposal to add staking. Right now, there is no way you can stake a BRC20 token. That is what BRC30, which is a proposal led by OKX, will enable. So nobody's seen or knows what this UI actually looks like. Anybody can take it and build on it because it's just a Git book, like on GitHub, a whole documentation that was published. But then how the UI will look on specifically the wallet is something that, will be the next exciting thing that we'll see. And then also, I don't know when this comes out, but by then we'll probably also see our Ordinals market. So today you can trade BRC20 tokens on the wallet, but you cannot trade the Bitcoin like NFTs. So that will be coming out very, very soon.
I can't wait.
Boiling down that gold and creating cool jewelry with it.
Exactly.
Exactly. Everything that you did with like Ethereum NFTs and Solana NFTs, now that opens up to like a whole new space. So if anybody's thinking like I'm too late, I'll just leave you with you're not. You're very, very early. So start learning about it. You'll probably be really confused, but you'll be really confused even if you start 10 months later. So might as well do it now.
Yeah.
Exactly. There's some really good threads that I've been sharing with our members. So I think we'll maybe post them in the show notes so people can like learn about BRC20s and just what the implications of all this. And if you guys have any tutorials, send them my way and I'll post them there as well.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
For sure. All right. Well, I think this takes us into rapid fire questions, which is exactly how it sounds. So I think we have 3 or 4 questions lined up. We will ask them, and first thing that comes to mind as quickly as possible, just hit us with your first response. So with that said, I guess I'll start the first one. What is a Web3 project, not including your own, so nothing with OKX or anything that you're currently working on, that you're most bullish on?
So many. I think I'm really bullish on right now everything that Redacted is doing. So there's this person on Twitter called BitGod. I met him in Miami, and just like the way he laid out all the things that he's doing, that's like with the OXBT token and just with that ecosystem, there's some really cool things that are in place that we're also working together to see how we can collaborate. So I think that one's like a very big one that I'm just excited about the overall ecosystem and what they're building.
I'm really excited about that because that is actually the first BRC20 I bought was XOBT. I follow that team, and I might have to hit you up on Telegram after for some private alpha. I don't know. So this one is, what is the biggest professional learning that you've had over the past 12 months?
I think things always change and roadmaps can always change. So listen to the market and keep evolving. Like Bitcoin ecosystem was not on our roadmap, if you ask me, in January. But again, there was a proposal made and that didn't really do well. And then there was another thing that happened in March. And then everybody's like, oh shit. And, if you ask me in January, what's your yearly OKRs? I'm like, yeah, all these things. And then now if you ask me, it's like completely different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Adaptability.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I'll take the third one. If you had $1 million, what would you build in Web3 today? Again, outside of OKX or anything you're already working on.
I think I would really be interested in building a marketplace for talent to find each other. And I mean talent like both ways. So companies can find people based on like on-chain data, like what they've actually done, and then like credentials, So for example, if Blake completes a paid ads campaign for me with like XYZ metrics and like he grew my product by 25% in Vietnam, like everything's in his profile and it's verifiable on chain. And then Julie can come in and be like, well, I don't need to ask Shreyas on how Blake did. I can just go into this place, look at Blake's credentials and, hire him.
Yeah, I will tell you, my son will be the first to use that because it would really streamline our membership interviewing process.
And we're kind of building that actually, but that's a separate conversation.
Look at that.
Yeah,
we
have some
I guess I need to invest my. I guess I need to invest my $1 million there.
There you go. Yeah, we'll take a check.
We'll include you in our pre-seed. Don't worry.
Yeah, we'll think about it. Okay, and then last one. What are your craziest predictions in Web3 by end of year 2023?
I think that Ethereum and Solana are really going to have a run for their money by the end of the year, and there'll be some projects on Bitcoin that don't even exist on Ethereum that people will still be struggling to understand. I feel whether or not it gains adoption, I don't know, but there will be some cool things that people who are like the nerds are going to be like, okay, amazing. But then people that are still learning will be like, what, why? Like when I asked, when I talked about like within one of our communities, Jump, I'm like, I messaged some people like, hey, where do you stand on BRC20? Like, why? Like they're the same as ERCs. Like, why do they exist? And that why still needs to fit properly in people's heads. So I think some people will like click the why properly, and then the other people will still be like innovating on cool things. And at some point there'll be more people in the overall Bitcoin ecosystem.
And as I always say, it's always a toy, right? It starts as a toy and then it evolves. So yeah.
What is it? Slowly but suddenly and then all at once?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, there you go. Cool. Well, I want to take the last minute or two to give you the opportunity to show yourself and anything you're working on.
Yeah, absolutely. So follow me on Twitter. That is Shreyas Gavit 11. Connect with me on LinkedIn if you want to chat with any ideas, collaborations, questions, whatever it is. And then for OKX, literally every single channel. So wherever you're at, type in OKX. Yeah, we've talked about a lot in this podcast. If you listen all the way through, just type in OKX, find it wherever. And then for the wallet, specifically on Twitter, we have OKX Web3, which is where we only post wallet details versus the overall global, everything exchange, wallet, and institutions combined.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll take note of that and call that.
If you want to see like cake pops being made, then TikTok is your place.
Amazing. That was what I was looking for.
Literally during this call, I went on TikTok low key and I was just like, and I followed. So I'm ready for.
Do you like it?
I'm into it.
I think our best performing one has been a lot of the McLaren or the Manchester City content.
Yes, I mean that's also genius, right? Because obviously, and that's kind of. I don't know if this was on purpose or not, but it's perfect timing because obviously, like with Drive to Survive, F1 has just like blown up with American audiences over and globally, but especially American and younger audiences over just the past couple of years. So I see OKX when I watch Netflix all the time, so I can't get away.
Yeah, and lastly, just download the product, try it out, and message me if anything that you think does not make sense or you really like it. Let us know. Happy to hear feedback, and job's not done. It's just getting started.
Awesome. Love that attitude. Awesome. Well, it was so nice meeting you. We will definitely have to, chat in Telegram and figure out a time to meet up IRL since we're both in Miami. But really appreciate you taking the time to come on and chat with us. Love the chat. Love the breakdown of ordinals and everything beyond. So really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Sounds good. Thank you for having me. It was great chatting with both of you.
Likewise. Thanks so much, Shreyas. Really appreciate it, and I'll see you online.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
All right, bye-bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of W3G. If you'd like to learn more about Web3 marketing, please visit myson.xyz to get started.
And of course, if you're a fan of the show, please be sure to show us your support by subscribing and leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, or whatever platform you're using to tune in.
Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.